Welcome to Disability Empowerment Now, Season 4. I'm your host, Keith Murphy DiCincini. Today I'm talking to Elsie Rogers.
Thank you for
Elsie,
having me.
welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really pleased to be with you today.
I forgot to mention that you just wrote a book. Uh, why don't we start there?
Sure, yes. I wrote a book called Autistic, Leaping Over Walls Whilst Living with Autism. Yeah, so I launched that, and the book was actually published last year, July, on Amazon. And I'm proud to say that I did make bestseller in the first couple of weeks that we launched the book on Amazon, and we had very good reviews. And yeah, it's been a blessing to reach out to so many people who also have reached out to me, sharing their stories and forming a good community and sharing experiences.
So, what motivated that book?
For me, what motivated the book was I was at a good place at the time to write the book. I have two sons, Joshua and Christian. Joshua is autistic. He's 26 now. When I launched the book, published the book last year, he was 25 and his brother Christian was 20, but now they're both 21 and 26. I was in a good place to write that book and to share my experience and my story in the way that I dealt with the whole diagnosis when Joshua was 5 and our journey and our life up till now, the difficulties, the joys, the highs and the lows. And I thought it was best to share that experience with the world because, as I say, I was in a very good place. And I noticed also that there weren't many books um, written by people like me, women who are Black. And I wanted to share from that perspective that we've been through this, we're still dealing with it, and also bringing in the voice of Christian as a sibling impacted by autism, sharing his side of the story. Because what happened was I didn't want the whole situation in the family to impact Christian so much. And I had to make sure that I also focused on raising Christian so that he didn't suffer any neglect or become a carer for Joshua. Instead, what I did was to forge together brotherly love and brotherly sibling by engaging both kids in all social activities. However, there were times when it felt like Joshua was having more of my time. And in the book, Christian shares his story of how that impacted him and how he dealt with it, and how that's also made him a better person.
So, let's talk about the sibling bond, because that's very important, and you hinted at it beautifully. How did Christian react when you first told him that his older brother had autism?
The age difference between them is 5 years. So at the time, Christian didn't truly understand the word autism. I just explained to him that his brother needed a lot more attention and that he was different. But because I did a lot of things with them together, we traveled a lot, we used to play together, we used to go out to do fun things together. It didn't feel like it was hard for Christian to understand. But I think for him, what was painful was how other outside people viewed our situation and how they reacted to us when we were out at restaurants or when we traveled or when we were playing and with other families on holiday. That's when I think it really impacted Christian because I've raised both children to be very loving, very caring. It's the reaction from communities and society that really affected Christian.
And what about Joshua? How, how did he react to finding out he had autism and going through?
I think there's an innocence about Joshua where even up till now, I don't think Joshua understands the word autism. Joshua just knows that he is loved. Joshua just knows that he's absolutely cared for because he's involved in everything that we do as a family. Joshua's been to maybe over 10, 12 countries with me, with Christian, with my mom. We traveled together as a family. Outside of that as well, I launched my hair care product and a beard product last year, March. I included Joshua as one of the models in our commercials because Joshua loves to participate in anything that involves performance. He plays the piano, he's quite self taught. So, because I include him in things, he doesn't feel like anything is different about him. And I want to also applaud my family members as well who treat Joshua as normal. Like I said, growing up was when we had the difficulty when we were going out in communities, how people perceived autism. But I never let that stop me. I never let that stop me. I always made sure that if I went into a restaurant, for example, I'll be quick to say, look, I have an autistic child and can I sit somewhere quiet? And I will take with me little things that will help Joshua like calm down and maybe he could start drawing.
Yeah.
And to me, it just made life a lot easier. And he started to learn social skills. Like now, when we're traveling at the air, when we get to the airport, he's the one who goes to the counter and introduces himself to the check-in desk to say, hello, my name is Joshua. And he hands over his passport because he's used to traveling, he's used to the engagement. He gets excited when we're traveling now because I have to show him and prepare him for example, if we're going to Spain, he knows we're going to Spain, what day at the time. We get him involved in the packing, we get him involved in choosing the activities. So he understands what's coming. And again, having his brother there, they also now can do things on their own because they're adults. So Joshua hasn't felt like, oh, I'm different. He's very funny. He just loves, making me laugh, making the family laugh, enjoys playing the piano, enjoys his own company sometimes, which we actually allow him be.
Talk talk to me about the other stuff you do on your website and through your advocacy because you do a lot and you have several different titles. How do they all connect if they
Oh.
do?
Absolutely. So one of the things that was very important to me when I found out that Joshua was autistic, as I said, when he was 5, this was 20 something years ago, I was already a working mom. And I didn't want that to stop me from working. If anything, it was a blessing to be in a career because that money helped me to provide the funding needed for private therapies. What I did was I left my full-time job and I started to do consulting. I started to work on my own and I formed my own limited company. And I was getting contracts, applying the experience that I had gained from the financial services industry in the UK. And that opened doors for me. So I was able to pay for a lot of things for Joshua, which the government in the UK were either delaying to pay or some of the things they couldn't pay for because they were non-educational needs. So, for example, music therapy was classified as a non-educational need. Now, for me, Joshua wasn't able to listen, wasn't able to concentrate. How do you engage with a child who's not able to sit down and concentrate, for example? So, but with music therapy, over 7, 10, I think we did that for almost 10 years. That's how Joshua had the ear for playing the piano and he became self-taught. And from that, he performed at the Royal Albert Hall in the UK. And even now, he's still enjoying playing the piano. And we have an invitation actually to come to New York in November at a gala where Joshua will be playing and I'll be speaking. Now, how does that connect the dots? And over time, that made me very strong because I tried not to make it about me. It was all about Josh. It was all about Christian supporting both boys to have the maximum in terms of life and enjoyment that I could give to them, especially at the time I was divorced. So my children mean the world to me, and it was all about pouring out my love for them. And then during COVID, I was homeschooling both children. Now Joshua was in a special needs unit in Canterbury in Kent, where we live. And Christian was doing his A levels. It was a very stressful time for us because Joshua couldn't understand why suddenly he couldn't go out, he couldn't do the things he loved doing, he couldn't go to youth clubs anymore. My hair started to fall out. I tried using so many products, it just wasn't working. And then I started to research what would work. And over time, I identified what was working. And then, as I said earlier, I launched my own hair growth serum, which is unisex because Joshua was having dandruff, Christian was also having itchy scalp, and they were both my first test beds. And it works. So again, I bring my children into everything that I'm doing. And then launching and publishing the book as well has opened opportunities for me to speak at events. I also had my own first event in October here in the UK, just to share again my lived experience to encourage people and share some of the things that we've been through, how we did it, not just music therapy, speech therapy, horse riding, um, another thing we did was helping Joshua to coordinate with eye coordination, was swimming, was basketball. So just putting all of those therapies together and making sure that Joshua was gaining understanding, communication, social skills. Now, not all the therapies work. I mentioned all of that in my book, but the things that I found worked, I would hone in on that. Another thing that we did was art therapy. So connecting the dots for me is I was maximizing my talent, my skills as well, to give the best for us as a family and for my children to have a better life.
Talk more about what is it like as a mother seeing your oldest child grow up with that, pardon me, grow up with that innocence, because a lot of us lose that very early on, certainly before our 20s or
Yeah.
almost 30s. And what is that like for you as his mother?
Um, it's a beautiful thing, I must say, to know that Joshua grew up with such innocence. Now, if I had to flip it was hard to deal with it with Christian because I was used to Joshua not doing the things that teenage boys do. Yeah, because it was easy to um, work with Joshua. So, for example, I talk about dealing with puberty in my book as well, which again, most books don't talk about. One of the ways that I dealt with
No,
puberty,
they do
yeah,
not talk
yeah,
about
yeah, about
that.
puberty. Yes, so I talk about puberty and how I
We
dealt.
all go through
We all
it,
go through that.
and
Exactly.
yet most, yeah,
Yeah.
continue. Yeah,
So with Joshua, I made it very easy. Making sure there was no shame attached to what he was going through. And I sought help from the schools and the colleges that he went to at the time. I went straight up to the head teacher at Cricket Green. I said, "Oh my God, Mrs. Dawson, this is happening to Josh. What can I do? What can you help me?" The school was absolutely incredible in the way that they partnered with me because Joshua learned through peps, a lot of pictures. So we devised a means together on how to educate Joshua with peps. So the do's and the don'ts and the boundaries. Because for me, it wasn't about anybody stepping their boundaries with Josh. It was also for me, how would Joshua also respect people's boundaries? So I started to implement those in my house, making sure I, for example, no longer would just barge into his room. I would knock, and until he wants me to come in, I wouldn't go in, vice versa. So we started to implement those. We started to encourage him to wear his dressing gown. We started to encourage him using words like safe space, and who to high five, who to elbow in a way that you greet people so that's respectful and not going around hugging people inappropriately. Now, that took a while. That took a while.
yeah,
And when I knew that Joshua was masturbating, I'm going to use the word openly, I never made it a shame thing for him.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I
you
would shut the
did,
door.
and it's like I,
Absolutely.
I totally respect that.
One of the things that I said to Josh was he was only allowed to do it in his bedroom. He was never allowed to do it anywhere else. So if I knew that he was having a private moment, I would not step into his bedroom because I knew stuff was going on. And I could see that he liked girls, and I would talk about girls that he liked. He likes Beyonce, he likes Mariah Carey, because he's quite musical. And I'll ask him why he likes them. He'll tell me about their hair. Again, I would drum in the boundaries, what to do, what not to do to people, because when we go out, encouraging him to be aware of strangers, stranger danger.
Yeah,
So that's how we overcame puberty. So he knows what to do and what not to do. Whereas with Christian knew stuff even before I could talk to him. And then I remember when he used to laugh at Joshua, when Joshua would be showing signs of it. I used to tease him saying, "You're laughing now, wait till it gets to your turn." But I also didn't just take it for granted that because Christian knew so much that I didn't have that conversation with him. I had the conversation with him and I told him about boundaries. And both my boys are respectful now. One of the things that I also implored, I forgot to say that as well with Joshua, he has great uncles. My brothers are great. One of my brothers, Edward, is quite funny. So I rang him. I'm like, dude, oh my God, this is what I'm dealing with Josh. And we laughed about it. And it's even in my book where I say Uncle Edward said, why don't we just get him a magazine and just get the show over and over and done with. And we just joked about it. And then
yeah,
they are there to encourage him as well, to say, dude, boundaries, you don't step out of bounds. And one of the things that I do with Josh as well, I take him to social settings, especially now that he's very aware and he loves music. I go to a nice restaurant where they're playing good music and we sit down as a family and enjoy. And I make life as normal and accepting as it can be for Josh so that he doesn't get excitable when he sees something new because he's getting used to a lot of the things that I love, a lot of the things that you love, a lot of the things that other people love, so that if he sees the opposite sex that he likes, he doesn't get excited just because he's used to it. When we go to the
yeah,
park as well, if we say hello to people, we say hello to people nicely. And if we're going to step boundaries, I always remind him of the safe space and the respect for other people's privacy and also stranger danger.
yeah, yeah,
So that's how I've managed the innocence. But is he really innocent now? I don't think so, because if he's telling me that he loves girls, is there any innocence there? Not
yeah.
really. It's just making
No,
sure that he
no,
doesn't step out of bounds. That's all.
yeah, no. The innocence is more surrounding the 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 innocence I'm referring to is around the disability and what
Right,
it means.
right,
It's
right.
not purely the intellect or
Sure,
whatever.
sure, sure.
It's because, as you know, autism will be with him throughout his life. And it's so that is what I was trying to hone in on.
Sure,
But
sure.
you're absolutely right. He is growing up, and
Mm.
I completely applaud your frankness, your openness. Uh, Unfortunately, I couldn't get the book. It's not yet available in the US, at
Oh,
least
it
that,
is. It is on Amazon.com. So
oh,
you can get it. You can download
wow.
it by Kindle. You can.
Oh, yes, I'm old fashioned with the books I research and listen to. But yeah, so what's next for
So,
you in terms of your advocacy and advocating for your son?
it's a long life thing. It's more about bringing awareness to communities, to homes, because he's growing. And I want him to be able to live the best life that he can, that he can live. And what I do is observe what he likes, and everything that Joshua likes, I encourage. That way he's able to be part of a community. I so, for example, he stopped doing art, and I'm like, okay, dude, you don't want to do art anymore. So, what do you want to do? And his desire is to be able to play in a group because he plays solo. So, what we're doing now, we're extending his understanding of notes so that if he gets the opportunity to play in a group, he'll
Music
be able to.
notes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
music notes. Yes,
yeah.
he'll be able to take instructions. So I want to continue to do this, and people like you keep reaching out to me. So the more people reach out to me, the more I'm able to encourage and share my lived experience that people really shouldn't give up. And I'm hoping that over time, as autistic adults show flair for work, people like you and I can influence policies that would help
Yeah.
them be part of a working society, and that they'll be able to live an independent life as they can live. So that's the intention. It's a lifelong advocacy for me.
Very well said. You seem very positive, but I had to wonder, were there moments of doubt, moments of worry as you were watching him grow up throughout
Absolutely.
his teenage years?
Absolutely, absolutely. When I first got his diagnosis from the age of 5, 20 odd years ago, there was nothing concrete about autism. There were sprinkles. Now you have a lot of people, societies, communities raising awareness. There's help like never before. There are parents that you can talk to. Families are dealing with it more now. There's statistics, there's data behind
Yeah,
what's happening with autism around the world. So were they doubts from the very beginning? I was much younger then. I was confused. I was afraid, and I was just knocking on doors. And then I wondered whether my son would be able to, because the diagnosis that I was given was Joshua would not be able to ride a bike. He would not be able to dress himself. He would not, basically felt like it was a death sentence. So imagine how I felt as a young mom. And then I put all my energy into providing him with resources. And I also put in the time. So because, for example, Keith, if you have a speech therapist and they do the therapy, right? They also give you exercise
homework.
to do with your
Yeah,
child. So at the time, for example, Joshua used to snatch a lot, and I wondered how we could deal with that. And when I asked the speech therapist, she said, okay, you're going to have to teach him how to stop snatching by turn taking. For a
yeah,
whole year, I taught my son, I sat on the floor and threw a ball at him, and he would throw it at me. And I would say the word, your turn, and I'll throw the ball. And when he throws the ball back at me, he has to say, my turn. It took him a year to understand that. So there's a lot of energy involved. There's a lot of,
yes.
you've got to make the time. Um,
Yes, yes,
so
you have to put in the time
absolutely.
and
So
effort.
yes, so to conquer the fears that I had to implement strategies, and things started to work slowly. And when I realized that he loved Thomas the Tank Engine, which he's still obsessed about, even at 26, I bought all the series for him because it was from Thomas the Tank Engine that Joshua started to learn to spell and started to learn to read. And I would sit down with him and memorize every character because I wanted to engage with my child.
Yeah,
So I had those fears. Going through teenage years, the tantrums, like I said, I talked about puberty, the hormones, everything changing. And I would just seek for help. I would read books. I would be on the internet trying to find out how to help my child. So yeah, so it's been a journey. It continues to be a journey because I don't know what his desires would be the next day, and how do I cope with it if it was something different that I've never seen before. So you still, it's not as bad, but you still have it at the back of your minds that his needs keep changing. His desires will always change as he continues to grow into, well, he's an adult now, but as he continues to live his life.
Yeah, it's very important that family support and they treat Joshua as normal, but not everyone will outside of the family unit. How how do you prepare someone for that? Or have you given thought to prepare him that not everyone is going to be as understanding, as patient, as kind as they should? And
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So Joshua himself has had experiences where he's not been treated kindly and he's come to tell me. And all I can do is hug him and explain to him that, first of all, he's loved, absolutely loved by his family. And again, it's okay if people don't like you. That's the way the world is. But he
yeah,
needs to understand that he's loved. One of the ways that I prepare Joshua, for example, when we go shopping, is to be aware that there are people who are not very understanding in the environment. So if he gets confused, for example, people
yeah,
aren't always going to be patient with him because they don't know him.
yeah,
If I'm with him, I do explain. Yeah, or if any other family, he's never alone anyway because he's not very stranger danger aware. So if there's another family member with him or a carer is with him, they always have to explain to him that not everyone's going to be patient with you and it's okay. It does make him sad because he tells me that it makes him sad.
yeah.
And I just reassure him. That's all I can do.
It would be downright creepy if it made him happy, joyful.
Mm.
Uh, yeah. But, and so, what is his intellect like? And how does his intellect react or interact with the autism through your eyes as his parent?
Okay, so his comprehension and understanding is not in comparison to his chronological age. That's for certain. There are certain things that he understands very well. Yeah, things that he really likes to do, wants to do. But in introducing change to him takes, even now, takes a while. He's quite familiar with his surroundings, so it's easy for him to apply his knowledge from repetitions because
Yeah,
it is environment, so he knows. But outside of that, he needs guidance and support. Saying that though, Joshua is very intelligent. And I'll give you an example. Joshua doesn't need to be told how to dress when we're going to church.
yeah,
He he knows he's able to understand that I'm going to church and I really need to look smart. That's amazing. But otherwise, trust me, he doesn't really care. Like, whether the clothes match or whether they looked sharp. You need to encourage him. So for me, that's a skill. Like, wow, he knows that
yeah,
we're going to church. And he needs to look a certain way. He also understands now, again, applying his intellect, the way he wants to look as a man. So he goes through phases where He's asked to dye his hair blonde, which I thought was amazing. He's asked to cornrow his hair, which I'm like, oh wow. He's beginning to understand his personality and sharing his views about what he likes. And then he got to the point where he thought, okay, I don't want to do cornrows anymore. I want to grow an afro. And then he got tired of that, and now he wants to have his hair really short, and he wants to have his grooming cut, his beard cut every 2 weeks. So again, that's applying his intellect to
Yeah.
his image, so which is super brilliant, and
Yeah.
then yeah, I'm really pleased about that. We're coming along with I call them big things because that's self-awareness. He's beginning
Yeah.
to have identity. Yeah,
Pardon me.
that's okay.
So, had Joshua or had Christian rather uh, interacted or ever interacted negatively towards Joshua or because of the autism, and how did he work through that? You mentioned in the book that Christian went through a experience and how he dealt with that. Could
Yes.
you talk more? Because I'm not sensing from you a much of a sibling rivalry, which is so common. I mean, it happens in almost every family.
Okay.
Uh, but there are bumps along the way, of course, in everyday life, and
Mhm.
uh, our families should be so tight knit, but no
Absolutely.
one can hurt us
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like our own family. And
Mm-hmm.
so, sorry to paint a bleak picture there in case anyone did not know that. Um, but it's true. And so I want to know more about the bumps and how, because you said at the very beginning, Christian talked about that in the book
Yes.
and
Yes.
getting through it,
Yes.
and that it made him a better person. Could you
Absolutely.
talk more about that example?
Yes. So, um, one of the frustrations Christian shares in the book is the desire of, as a younger brother, not having his older brother dote on him like he should have because of autism. Instead, he had to grow up to understand that there are limitations to the things that Joshua can do, and also desiring to go see a movie with his older brother, but he couldn't. Instead, he'll go with a friend. But now that they're older, that has changed because they can now go watch the movies together. And one of the things, Christian is quite musical as well. He used to play the drums in the jazz club when he was in school. And he started to love arts. So the music brought them together, bonded. So because there was a drum in the house and there was a piano in the house, so that made them bond as siblings. And then Christian said to me that one of the reasons he took art as GCSE during GCSE was because of Joshua, because Joshua is quite naturally artistic. So he wanted to bond with Joshua as well. And funny enough, Christian is a great artist and did very well. But the things that he he would fight about, for example, with Joshua, normal things like if they wanted to watch a program about the same time and who's going to watch the TV and, sharing food, things that siblings siblings would argue about. Sometimes Christian would be stroppy over, even now, they would argue over um, how each one person likes their chicken spice, the other person doesn't like their chicken spice. So
Yeah,
sometimes they would argue over it if I was cooking. Oh, Christian might say, "Oh, mom, you always make it the way Joshua likes the most." Okay, I'm sorry, that darling. I will split it and I'll make yours the way, you know. So they have those little rifts, but
yeah,
fundamentally, we haven't had any big thing because it's a family of love. Now, Christian's difficulties, as I would reiterate, has been there are certain things I would have loved to do with my brother that I've not been able to do. But life is changing. We were in
yeah,
Tenerife in February this year, and Chris said to me, "Mom, why don't you stay in the apartment and Josh and I can go for a walk on the beach and have a drink?" And I have pictures to show how wonderful a time they shared together because they could have a cocktail, of course. Joshua's would be non-alcoholic, but seeing them
yeah,
do grown-up things, and it's not because they have a long conversation, it's just because they just want to be together because there's not so much that Joshua can understand, but just knowing that they have a commonality with music and they'll go there
yeah,
singing along is just amazing. And I'm super grateful for that. And when I mean it's made Christian a better person, when Christian was in school, he was able to raise money for the National Autistic Society in the UK as a means of advocating because his brother was going through that as well. And at my event as well, Christian has had the opportunity to speak about the impact autism or disability has on the sibling and how he's dealt with it to encourage other parents to try not to neglect the other child and to
yeah,
try not to underestimate the impact he has on the other sibling. So it's been a blessing for us all round. It's made us grow. It's made us tough, but it's also brought it's very down and shadowy moments in our lives where you wonder if you're not there, what happens to Josh? I'm not going to deny that. I do think about it.
yeah. Uh, Talk more about that, and you'd say that there is not a lot of Joshua's ability to understand things is certainly not where his chronological age uh, is. You have a wonderful supporting family, and I'm sure that nurture is incredibly important and
Mhm.
beneficial uh, to Joshua. Do you worry as you progress through life and eventually move on to the next form of
Mhm.
life? Sorry to go the whole life, but
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
said it was a lifelong advocacy,
Mhm. Mhm.
which it very much is. Do you worry about how Joshua will be or seek to understand things after you're gone?
I'm very hopeful because Joshua's not where they told me he would be. That he's
Do you
the
mind if
di-
I ask what they told you?
the diagnosis that we got at 5 years was that Joshua would not be able to feed himself, would not be able to ride a bike, would not be able to have self-help skills. Yeah, that was 20 years ago. And I look at my son now. He's able to ride a bike. He's able to swim. He's able to shower. He's able to make his bed. He's able to do the lawn. I'm sorry, to hoover his room. He's able to tell me what he wants to, how he wants to dress. He's able to tell me what he wants to
Yeah,
eat, helping out in the kitchen. He loves to bake with his grandma. the things they said he couldn't do, he's doing it, right?
yeah.
He loves his space. He has a beautiful life. He loves movies. He knows music. He's
Did you
alive.
just say he loved his face?
No, he loves his space. His
Oh,
space.
okay.
Yeah. So yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes.
Two
So
very different words.
yes,
And I mean,
yeah.
yeah, go
So,
on.
so just being able to, you know what, I'm loving my space. This is my
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
which is, and I don't need you guys here. I love you, but can I just enjoy myself,
yeah,
and being able to tell me about, I want to go to the cinema because I want to go, and he goes on his phone and he shows me the dates on Google. He uses the laptop, like he's technologically savvy. So there's so much that he's able to do.
yeah,
And there was a time when I was worried about, I couldn't even see this moment come in my
yeah,
life. And now that I'm seeing this moment come, and my son's able to pose as a model in my commercials and taking instructions from a photographer, it means the world to me. And all I'm thinking about now over time is the strategies that will help him live an independent life and to implement things that will support him and to pray and trust God, that he will have the best life. And he has his brother Christian and he has beautiful cousins who love him. And I would hope that as we continue as a good family unit, that they will remain friends and loving with Josh, and that Joshua also will cultivate relationships outside of his family unit as opportunities opened for him in the music arena. So this is where my head is at now. I'm not thinking beyond that, but am I
yeah.
hopeful? Absolutely hopeful, and I trust God completely.
That's very good. I can see the background of your faith and why that is so vitally important
Mm.
uh, to your life and how you raise and shepherd your family. Uh, in case there are any aspiring advocates who who want to know more about the book, the advocacy, or want to model after what you did to their own family, what would be some advice you would give the next generation of advocates as they explore advocacy through, mul- through multiple means, like book, CD, concert, etc., etc. What would be some advice you would give them?
Well, one thing I'd give is accept the diagnosis. I come from a community where it's hard for people to accept disability. I'm Nigerian originally, and Nigerians are known for academics. They're high achievers when it comes to academics. And once you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer or an engineer, some parents feel like the children haven't made it or will make it in life, and they hide disability and they don't want to talk about disability. And if you don't accept it, how are you then going to help your child? They have to, my advice is strip off the shame. It's okay to have to deal with this. I feel like there's a grace of God upon me. You notice that I'm positive um, with this. That's because I'm full of love. And it pleased the Lord to allow us go through this. So my love for my son has been, in spite of all the therapies, the warm and the loving environment that I have provided for my children has been very key in enabling both of them thrive, especially Joshua, because he doesn't suffer from anxiety. Um, he knows that he's loved. When he's been anxious about things, he's been reassured. that he's loved. That would be my advice. And also, you got to take care of yourself because it can be hard.
Yeah,
Um, I had to learn to take care of myself because it can be very stressful. Thankfully, I have a supporting family. My mother is an absolute blessing. She's a retired teacher now. And because of my mom, I kind of knew how to navigate and to get the right resources to be able to help Joshua with learning, with colors, with, teaching me how to teach him to accept change apart from what the schools were doing. So I always reach out. I'm always want to ask for help. So people shouldn't be ashamed to ask for help. Um,
certainly not.
yeah, if you have the opportunity to if someone is offering you rest time, please rest. Try not to do any work. I love just sitting down and just resting and watching something that makes me laugh. And if I'm not doing that, I have the opportunity to go out with my friends. I love to socialize with my friends as and when I can. I also love to read. I love to read my Bible and praying as again, my faith has helped me because there are times when I'm in despair, I'm in, I'm so down. And I just pray about it. And somehow the worry and the care just dissipates. And I pick up the baton again and I start to run. And that's where we are now. So that would be my advice. And seek help from professionals.
So you mentioned that next month you and Joshua are going to New York.
Absolutely. And Christian is coming too. So we've been invited. Yes, Christian is definitely
And
coming.
that's a big trip, one
Yes.
would imagine.
Mhm.
What did you like to prepare your children for making that big journey? And how long will you be in New York?
Okay. So we've started to prepare Joshua with, he's picked the song that he wants to play. And because Joshua loves performing, I've used choice words. So we've showed him what it means to play at a gala. Obviously, he sees concerts, so he's aware. And I've reminded him that he played at the Royal Albert Hall, and this is going to be another great opportunity to showcase his talent, but even more now that he's absolutely stronger and enjoys performing now. So he knows, and I use choice words like, you're going to be famous. And I see his eyes light up. And I say to him, like, he's the best pianist, and that Joshua is going to make himself proud, because he's going to be performing at the gala, and that we're going to be there championing him and supporting him, obviously, because he wouldn't know the people there. And knowing that we're there, he's super confident that he's going to have a great time. So he's preparing really hard for the performance. And Christian is super excited because Joshua has the opportunity as an adult to play in front of this beautiful community because Christian has had the opportunity being musical. He's traveled. He used to be a choir boy. He sang at the famous German cathedral. So Christian has had a stage for a long time. He's been showcased for a long time. So he's super excited that now Joshua is having the stage and the focus is going to be on Joshua. So I'm grateful to God for the opportunity. And again, it's been because of the book that this has come about. So the book is actually reaching and touching people, and they want to be able to see what God has done for our lives, basically.
That's beautiful. I'm going to be in New York the following month. And so, unfortunately, our paths will
Will
just
not, yeah,
meet each other. I like to think that both advocates with disabilities and those who have yet to embrace their own disabilities. Listen and watch this show. But I'm not naive enough to think that each group and groups within those groups take away the same things from the episodes. So, as my guests, what do you hope that advocates with disabilities take away from this episode? And what do you hope that those who have yet to discover and embrace their disabilities take away from this episode?
I'm hoping that people will be able to take away the determination to continue life and not give up and to enjoy life. We're all different. We are all different. Even if you don't have a disability, you're not perfect. And I would expect that advocates will continue to be inspired to continue to shout out loud and raise awareness, because the more awareness, the more communities become accepting of what families and people with autism are dealing with. Even I'll give you an example. There's a family friend of ours who came over the summer to stay with us. And obviously, he knows Josh. But when he stayed with us and read the book, he sat me down and he said, "I'm sorry. I didn't realize how much you were dealing with. And I cannot um, stop admiring Joshua, watching him live a happy life in spite of his limitations, because he could observe that in the family, there's so much love that even if Joshua was not able to complete a task, he was okay. There was
Yeah.
no judging. There was no judging. So the more people become aware, so the more we raise awareness, the more people become sympathetic and kind to people with disabilities. So that's what I hope people will take away from it and not give up. It's a lifelong thing, and it's going to get better the more people know.
So, in case anyone wants to buy the book or learn more about your work, what are the best ways to do that?
Yes, thank you very much. So my book is on Amazon. It is titled Autistic by Elsie Rogers. The subtitle is Leaping Over Walls Whilst Living with Autism. But if you type in Autistic by Elsie Rogers, it should come up. Or you can follow me on my social media, which is at Instagram at the Elsie Rogers Official. So you can find me on there, and on Facebook at the Elsie Rogers Official, and on Twitter at the Elsie Rogers Official.
Well, Elsie, thank you so much for coming on today. I hope to talk to you again soon. Enjoy New York, and let's keep in touch.
I will. Thank you so much, Keith. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. God
Thank
bless
you.
you. Bye bye.
God bless.